Call the meeting to order. Judy, would you read the call or read the roll, please?
Yes. Neil Butnick.
Here.
Judy Neville. Tom Schulte.
Here.
Amy Carroll.
Here.
George Blauvelt.
Here.
Yeah. Todd Lavieri. Chris Labrie. Is Chris coming? Do we know? All right. Michael Chen.
Here.
Maria Weingarten.
Here.
Robert Hamill. Bob. Is he on?
Yeah, don't see him.
No.
He was going to be on, so.
Okay, I think, yeah, I didn't get it. Victor Alvarez.
Here.
And our first selectman, Kevin Moynihan, is here. And do we know if Chris is coming?
Qatar is a popular airline.
I believe so. I'm kind of surprised.
Yeah, I didn't hear from him. So do you want a seat in the event that he doesn't? Or do you want to?
Bob Hamill's just arrived.
Yep.
Bob, yeah, Bob was coming. We can seat Victor, and if he comes, we can reseat him. What do you think? You want to wait?
No.
It's only 7:02, so I don't know.
Yeah.
Even the Bob Spangler rule, 7:02, really, we get,
Oh, he did more than 7:02, but we always knew. He always texted us or emailed us. So
I'm surprised. He told me he was going to be on. Well, I know. I think we move forward and seat Victor.
Yeah, seat Victor. Whoops.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, gang. Yeah. All right.
Okay. So motion to seat Victor. I think we need a motion.
Move.
Neil, second.
Second.
Yep. Tom, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? None. Okay, Victor, game on. Okay. Need a motion to approve the minutes for January 12th, February 23rd, and February 25th, please. We can just do one motion for all three.
So moved.
George. Yep. Tom.
If I might just,
Yes.
on the 25th, the minutes, when we were discussing emergency management, there's some language there that I think accurately reflects our discussion of the portable generator packs. But my recollection was, at least when I was looking at my notes, is that we also increased the signage. I don't know if anybody else remembers that.
Right.
Is that right, Tiger?
Yes.
We did.
So
Yes, I definitely talked about that.
So I just wanted to share a couple.
So how much did we increase the signage, Tiger? Do you remember?
You doubled it, so you went from one sign to two.
Yeah, I thought that was 10. I thought that was 10,000.
All right. Do you remember the amount?
Additional 10,000.
Okay, I can add that. Or Tucker will talk. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, I had a motion by George. I need a second. Tom, yep. Okay, good. Thanks, Tom. Yep. All in favor? Approved minutes?
Aye.
Opposed? None? I see none. Okay, great. Okay. All right, let's go into the presentation of the budget and status is where we are. I'll turn it over to Linda. Linda, let's just start with capital and go through. I know there've been some fast and furious moves. I want to make sure we're all aligned on capital. And I'd also like to agree as to whether we're going to use the $50,000 or $75,000 cutoff, so that when we talk about the budget, we can pick a lane. Okay.
Okay. Can you see the screen I'm sharing?
Yes.
Okay. So essentially, what I did with the update, or at the conclusion of the last meeting, there was discussion about increasing the captives from 50 to 75. So there were only, I think, maybe 2 or 3 projects that were impacted by this. And so I've highlighted those in red. And if we decide that we go back to the 50, in the budget read and in the summaries that I included for you, I did include option 1 and option 2, so we don't have to do the recalculate. But essentially option 1 is where we were last on Tuesday. And then option 2 is if we move forward with the cap change. The net impact is $319,000 by changing it. And therefore we would increase the amount to be raised by taxation by $319,000. And there's a slight increase in the mill rate in order to make that happen. So the projects that did change, if we did increase the threshold, in the police department, information technology first, 75, 60,000. So these two projects initially were in the bonded column. And if we go forward, they would move to the tax support column. But everything else that we saw on Tuesday remains unchanged. These were the changes that we discussed. Actually, I'm looking at it. The signage went from 20 to 40, Tucker. And
it was 20 to 40? Okay.
20 to 40. And the generator packs went from 6,250 to 12,500.
Exactly.
And then this is a change that was that came up. Oh, here we go. This was a change that occurred this morning regarding the town hall annex. There was discussion on what the tickets for the generator pack. So we took that item out from FY22, and the placeholder for next year is 215,000. And in place, we have this $21,000 item. And if Tiger wished to speak to it, he could. But that's the change that occurred between Tuesday and today as far as the capital. So this was an additional 21,000 on the tax support capital side.
You want me to fill in any of those blanks, or?
Yeah, Tiger, why don't you do a quick rundown so people know what you think?
Okay, so after several discussions and commentary on the annex generator, we had been looking in the past at a holistic approach for a backup generator to our generators. I don't know, this is the one, Judy, you had been mentioning, that we had never come forward with. It's basically a plug and play dial generator that could handle, say the police department went down, the generator went down at the police department. We don't have a backup. We had to do that at the YMCA. It cost us 90 grand to hook up the YMCA, right? So if the fire department goes down, we don't have a backup to that. If the highway department goes down, the town hall goes down. The only one that we can't necessarily size would be the wastewater plant. So we had been looking at a trailer mounted generator that you could dial in what phasing you had, what you needed for each location, and then they're ready to be plugged and played. Each of those 4 locations are ready to be plugged and played, meaning that if the generator went down, we could drive up with this one, plug it in, call it a day, nobody has to leave. We had tabled that because at the time there wasn't a pallet for it. So we decided to look at it, given the fact, instead of trying to storm harden the town hall annex, took a step back and said, well, what happens if we just buy this generator? We can use it at the town hall annex, and then God forbid we have a problem at another building, we say to the town hall annex, sorry, but the big 4 take precedent. We're unplugging you. We're going to plug in the big 4, and then we don't have to worry about getting the generator from offsite and renting it for the tune of $90,000 through the rest of an emergency. And at that point in time, we would have to relocate the town hall annex, and we feel we have capabilities right now at Irwin House. We're checking on the data for that, just for voice and data work, but the building is available and ready if we wanted to do that. So the thought was to pull it off now and then look for next year to dial in this number of the 215, which would be the purchase of a mobile generator, trailer mounted mobile generator, and then come back forward with that at that time.
I think that's an excellent idea. Yeah, we've talked about this for, 18 years since we started in 2004. It's time, and I'm sure the technology is much better. So I think it's a really good idea.
So, Tiger, so the way the numbers are moving around here, you're reducing the town hall request by 120 or 140.
120.
Next year, you're going to come back and ask for a 215.
Yeah, so it's a 95 ad, right? And then there is some electrical equipment required at the annex. And the thought is that I'm hoping that I can save money on every project that we have, not trying to drive myself towards getting that. But if I've got a truck in the budget at 220 and I buy it at 215, I save $5,000, these kind of things. And if I can cobble them together, I might be able to get the electrical equipment for the annex. It's about $50,000 for switchgear and things like that. But I think I can find that elsewhere. So it's a $90,000 swing. I need the 21 in the annex because that was for HVAC work. That wasn't for the generator at all.
And so for this solution, this portable solution to work for other buildings, right? So instead of having a solution that only works for the Outback, you're proposing a somewhat more expensive solution that can work for lots of different other locations, right? But in order for it to work for those other locations, they got to have a compatible hookup of some type.
They're ready. Yeah, we can actually. Yeah, those are ready. And
other than the Outback.
Right. The Outback was the only one that's not ready. Everybody else is.
Got it. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And I believe, and then we did have one project. There was field improvements. It was on the bonded side because it was under 50. And so with this proposal comes forward, it goes into the tax support. And there was a mower at 69K that would move from bonded to tax support.
Oh, wait, do something.
Go back.
I have a question. It's not about changing, but I have a question about, and we didn't really talk about this. There's 50,000 in the budget, it's just down a little bit, for the land acquisition fund. In last year, when Bristol moved to the head of the class because they're trying to get to the 100-year anniversary, we fully funded Bristol. We decided let's not fund the 50,000 for land acquisition. And I would recommend the same this year. I would say let's basically apply that 50,000 against the Bristol ask. That's my suggestion. Which is basically eliminating it, but it functionally helps underwrite Bristol.
Are you proposing moving that to support Bristol?
Well, taking it out, and that basically makes Bristol a little less, I mean, applying it functionally against the Bristol.
Right. It would make Bristol half as expensive, right?
Yep.
I think that's reasonable. There's enough support for Bristol. I think that should be our priority.
And in giving new life to Bristol, in some ways, it's like, improving our existing land. So I think it's in the same spirit.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's land.
Do we know that? Do we know if Chris Shipper had that earmarked for a different parcel?
Go ahead, Kevin.
Well, the purpose of the land acquisition fund is an entirely different thing. We have some parcels of property we're looking at acquiring. We have $50,000 in the budget already from 2 years ago. Bristow has to stand on its own. Chris sent an email today that he's got another $70,000 donated. So he's meeting his donated dollars obligation.
We're not questioning the ability to raise money for Bristow. We're just, again, just trying to stay with the multi-year capital plan.
Amy, the elected town council adopted an ordinance for the land acquisition fund. Why don't you leave it to the town council to decide whether they want to fund it? They can take it out. But you guys are not elected.
Well, we take stuff in and out all the time when we're not elected.
Just keep in mind on our process, guys, we're not really approving this final list. This is we approved this capital in May when we do the mill rate. We really need to acknowledge this and send this to the town council. Okay. So we can leave it in. We can, again, this doesn't get approved until May. The one thing that does matter is that it does leave, in this case in particular, an assumption about a tax supported number. It's meaning it's kind of de minimis, $50,000, but it's just to have it said that would be the only calculus in this thing. It wouldn't move any of the big numbers we need to vote on really at all. So, but why don't we do that? Why don't we just leave it in for now? Town council can have at it, and then we can finalize this when we do our final capital report in May. Is that okay? Amy, that work for you?
Yeah, I'm just trying to stay in the spirit of what we've done year after year, really tried to scrub the capital before we send it over. I mean, in other years, we've taken $5,000 out of people's painting budgets. And I just try to be judicious.
Stay in the spirit of the town council as an elected body adopting an ordinance if they want to do something.
Let's see what they say.
Right, but we applied this logic last year, right?
Exactly.
We did, yeah.
I mean, look, I guess I'm not opposed to leaving it to town council. That'd be fine. But I'm just saying that I happen to think the logic is sound, and we applied it last year.
Did we cut it last year, or the town council?
Yeah, we cut it.
Did we? And then, all right. Well,
what we did is we were talking.
Yeah.
We were talking about funding Bristol at a lower amount.
That's right. Yeah.
And then we said, well, okay, let's fully fund Bristol, and to do that, we're going to just take a pause on the 50,000 acquisition.
But they're two different things. I mean, the Bristol has to stand on its own. It's a park that's been neglected for years. It's got a 100th anniversary coming up, and it's being matched by donated dollars.
Yeah, I mean, we can agree to disagree on the approach of it. Just we can look at it.
This is an entirely different subject. There's an ordinance on the books that the town council adopted.
But we did apply this approach last year, Kevin.
Which was a mistake in my view.
I would disagree. But
okay, well, we can go back we can go back in time and change last year, but
yeah, add another $50,000, please.
I think so.
Why don't we move to the future? Look, if everyone's okay with it, I would just say let's see what town council says, and then we'll have a more thorough discussion on it if we need to in May when we actually vote on it. That feels like a fair approach. Sounds like we have a different opinion. Let's get that aligned.
Okay.
Over the next couple of months. Okay.
So those were the only changes by changing the cap from 50 to 75, which adds another 13,000. So I'm going to flip to so it shows here on the budget read document, version 1, the review 1 is the original view, and then 2 is if we did that tax supported capital. So the net change would be a total budget going from 154.5 to 164.8. And the driver of the change is this tax supported capital. This is the number that changes. All the other numbers stay the same between what you've seen before and now.
Hey, Linda, there was one other capital budget that was just a placeholder, and I'm not sure if we really discussed how to address it. It was the set aside towards the New Canaan Athletic Foundation for $300,000. And I don't think we ever really discussed it, except it was a number. And I can't recall exactly what, and Kevin, you may know this better, the memorandum of understanding. I understand what we were going at, but I don't remember the numbers associated with it in terms of what the town would set aside on a yearly basis. So I just think if do we have any more clarity on that number? Because I know when Tiger was working, it was just kind of a placeholder number. Does anybody else have any insight on that one?
They didn't present before us, so this is, I don't remember. It was just the master plan.
It's still just a placeholder.
Yeah.
I put it in last year on a 5-year basis for 300,000, and well, actually for 4 years for 300,000 to gather up 1.2, and the thought that as they came forward with projects, there would be at least planning and planned money going forward just to try to balance it out.
Did we fund it last year?
No, I put it in the out years last year.
Yeah.
So last year I had in 4 years 300,000, and then I just brought it forward this year, given the fact that it's we're budgeting now for 18 months in advance, right? So thinking that they are ramping up their master plan and they will be coming back. So I just wanted to have something in place there.
And it'll be a bonded project, so it'll come back for approval.
Correct.
Do we have to tax for it this year?
No, because it's bonded.
No, because it's a bonded project, it has because it's not a tax supported project, so it doesn't have any tax impact.
All right, so it's a placeholder.
Right.
Okay.
They do have a master plan that they're beginning to raise money towards. When they raise their money, they can come with a proposed project.
Do we know what the nature of it is? Is it for fields? Is it for a building? Is it for equipment?
Tiger, why don't you explain the master plan and kind of a...
They have, well, several phases. They have some work planned at Dunning, specifically around the press box and concession stand with a larger patio in the back, and then increasing the seating capacity. Then that concession stand would actually service both Dunning and the playing fields at the water tower with a pedestrian walkway coming across the parking lot. So it would be open from both sides. And then they have some other views as to possible expansion of Dunning and then work at the water tower fields.
It's also important, we don't have an understanding with the foundation as to whether or not it's going to be one-to-one matching when we get to a project. So. But it's always going to be matched with donated dollars.
Yep. Okay.
That was in the agreement, right, Kevin?
Yeah, but there's no understanding as to how we're going to, you know, it's fair to be prepared to match them, but it's not necessarily one-to-one.
So there was nothing in writing that was.
No, there's no time commitment to capital projects.
Right.
If they raise money, this is totally looking to be partners.
Right, but yeah, I just thought there was something more definitive. Okay.
We're not committed.
All right.
Next placeholder, and when they have capital needs, they'll come. Okay. Okay.
So
Other questions?
We
need to make a decision. Oh, sorry. Yeah, we need to make a decision, team, on 50 or 75. So points of view on that. I'd like to. That we need to resolve. Then when we go through the column A or column B here, column 1 or column 2, we're tumbling the numbers in the right way. So, Amy, you've really pushed for 75. I would also say that we can fund anything we want if we wanted to pay. Right. If we wanted to buy, spend some, take an item and use cap or expense money for it instead of capital. We can do that.
Sure. So, I just like the discipline of moving it up to a more substantial project,
right?
And because typically something, as you get higher up, the chances of it having a long average life, which makes bonding more reasonable, I just think it makes sense. Now, mind you, we would only bond something towards this average life, but I just think it's right. Hopefully can move us to paying for more things on a pay-as-you-go basis.
Yeah, it has. I think this last couple of years has made a difference. Well, the feedback that I've gotten on that is with some unknown future special appropriations and unknown reimbursement funds that, that people have said, why don't we use the $50,000 threshold and not box ourselves in? So that's the feedback I've gotten. Other feedback, other points of view on this?
Keep in mind, they don't bond 20 years or something. It only has a useful life of 10 years.
I know. You matched its useful life.
Right.
But this is just going back for, Neil was on the bonds, the debt subcommittee, and Chris as well. And if they want to weigh in, it's just an effort to throw a little more discipline in, but I completely understand we can also just pay for these things with cash if we want.
I'm a little concerned about that for this year. Because as Todd said, we've got these, it depends how you're going to fund this. Are you going to tax for it or are you going to take it out of general fund?
No, this is tax supported.
It is tax supported, but how are you going to fund it? Are you going to raise the taxes or are you going to take it out of general fund?
It actually does take the, you can see the budget goes up.
Right. You tax
so you got to pay for it one way. You either got to pay for it by current taxes or by past taxes.
Yeah, or you could just increase your general fund contribution, which does the same thing.
Well, yeah, but you see, this is the problem. We've got a lot of things going in this general fund contributions that are unknown. And we've got a lot of special appropriations that we already have teed up, and we're going to have other potentially down the road. And so it starts putting quite a lot of a burden on the general fund.
Yeah, as much as I'm really in the camp of pay as you go that Amy advocates, but This year I'm more with Chris. There's a lot of unknowns. There's a lot of potential claims against the general fund. We really don't want to increase the amount of money raised by taxation. So I would reluctantly say let's stay with 50,000 and keep the extra 319 as dry powder in case something we don't know happens.
We can't get it. Once we jump out of that plane, we can't climb back in, right? So on the other hand, if we go with the 50, we can always pay for a $75,000 item from expenses. Tom?
Yeah, I was just going to say, I agree with George, which is I'm kind of more generally in the camp of pay as you go, given the considerations that Chris has raised, which I think are fair. And the fact that, look, when it comes time to doing things with the library, we could just, decide to do one very large chunk right out of the general fund towards the library rather than bonding for all of it. We can make some decisions that kind of limit our ability, or our willingness to go out and bond, and rather than pick it up in little dribs and drabs and a half a dozen different things, we could do it in one big swoop. So I think for here, I think I'm kind of agreeing with George and Chris.
I mean, just on the bonding side, I mean, obviously people probably watching the news, rates have really moved in the last week, 2 weeks, and we've got a $1.9 trillion stimulus plan. I mean, of all the years to borrow, this may be our last shot at really cheap money. Nobody wants to be a market timer, but boy,
inflation.
There's some big trends going on that are not friendly to low rates for long. So,
okay. Other input? Let me put it this way. Is anyone really pushing hard for option 2 at this point? I think we're all pushing softly for it, but maybe this is just...
It's just worth looking at.
I have a question. If we did move the threshold to 75,000, does that mean we could just next year change it right back to 50,000, couldn't we?
Of course. Yeah. We could change it to 0.
Oh, yeah.
500.
And we're only talking about an additional 300,000 that would be not bonded.
Right, but we have to tax people for it.
Yeah. Either way.
And I believe the mill rate still drops from the 2021 budget in the 2022 budget with using the $75,000 threshold.
In both cases.
Right. So I'll show that here. Let me freeze my screen here so you can see.
Yeah. Very dangerous, Linda. Real-time spreadsheet analysis on a public Zoom. I'm so impressed.
Don't speak too soon. So this is what it does, comparing the two options and the mill rate. And so with option 1, keeping it at 50, we'd be looking at a mill rate of about 18.1. Bumping it up, that's adding 319, takes it to 18.146. That is assuming that we fund that by not the fund balance, but increasing the amount to be raised from taxation. So it increases the amount to be raised by 319,000 here, and the mill rate goes up about 0.04. But that's what it does. So you go from a minus 0.3 mill rate change to a minus 0.1 mill rate change by doing that 319. But it is 319,000.
Well, again, it boxes us in one way. It doesn't box us in the other. That's really the distinction. Judy, you got a question?
No, that wasn't me.
Else point of view?
Todd, we need to formally seat Chris.
Well, hang on. Let's just finish this and then.
But I mean, before we, okay.
Hang on.
Get to a vote. Yeah.
Neil or Michael, any thoughts on which way we want to go here?
I think Todd, keeping it 50,000 probably is a safe answer this year. I feel better that Linda says it's only 300,000 is a small dip, but I think it's right to just be safe this year, right?
Okay.
and not, can always lift it and change it next year. So I go with George.
Okay. 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 Well, if there's any, I think that's the consensus to leave it, and we'll use column 1.
I'm with George too.
Okay. We'll use the George column 1 here. George, I don't think you want your name on that column. It's really, we're all trying to spend a little more, but it feels like the right thing to do this year. Okay.
Yeah, I was honored, but it's an honor I'd be willing to give up.
Okay, that's the play. We'll stick with that column 1. Now we do have we have an opportunity, I should say, parliamentary rules to seat Chris. So it's a little odd, but let me just walk it through. Chris has obviously been is our regular member and has been knee deep in every aspect of this budget from the very beginning, and for technical reasons got onto the Zoom call a little bit late, and he may or may not know we seated Victor. Now, I'd actually like to ask Victor first if you're okay with having Chris be seated, because to do it we actually have to unseat you with a motion and seat Chris. I want to do it right, and if you're not okay with it, that's okay too. No pressure. Your decision. Your decision. You want to cut Chris out.
I'm okay with you seating Chris.
Okay.
Thank you, Victor.
So I need a motion to, thanks, Victor. I need a motion to unseat Victor. And I need a screenshot here. Can you see the hands? We have a motion?
I move.
Speak up, please. Neil, motion, second?
Yep.
Need a second?
I'll second.
That was George, second? Okay. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any nays?
Aye.
Okay. Thank you, Victor. 32 minutes of service. And now I need a motion to seat Chris, please.
I can't. I shouldn't do it.
Yeah, you shouldn't do it. Amy, thanks,
Oh.
Amy. Second. Just speak up, please.
Second.
Tom Schulte, second. Great. Okay, all in favor of seating Chris? All right. Opposed? Anyone? None. Okay. Thanks all. A little tricky there, but we want to do it right.
Okay, thank you. Sorry I was late. Everything failed all at once.
No worries. Understand. Okay, let's move on to, so that's the play. All right, we'll go through this. So now we're done with capital. So let's talk about the budget. Now, the plan that we do here is we vote on the line items that are highlighted in yellow. So Linda, everything is accurate now based on all of our conversations?
Yes, so review 1 is the current budget as is with the 50,000 threshold for capital, and it doesn't take into account the changes at the town hall annex. Those projects around is included in here. And so this sits as you last discussed the budget on Tuesday.
Yeah, okay. And I do want to just, again, out of respect for our partners and colleagues in, well, both on the town council as well as the Board of Ed, update everybody with discussions regarding some future special appropriations, which is obviously the domain of the Board of Finance to approve. There were 2 items, one for 909,000, another for 1.1 million. We had approved that we would do a special appropriation. The Board of Ed asked if we could reconsider and look at another proposal. We looked at another proposal, made an offer to sort of use a special appropriation for one of the options that the Board of Ed approved or recommended, and then the other one as a way of getting us started with the process on the special appropriation related to COVID. And so I don't know that we have full agreement with the Board of Ed on how much needs to be spent, but I would say to this group, that's fine. We will do a special appropriation. We will work with the Board of Ed starting tomorrow if we have to start working through what we need to get done by by April, and have in our meeting as planned a special appropriation for those items. And so that's the way we're going to handle it, is a special appropriation. And whether it's the amount of money that we proposed or something different, we will work on that and get that to everybody to vote on in April. And I think that can work for everybody. These are deferred expenses, as we've said many times. We're not cutting budgets. We're just looking at these deferred expenses, and we want to have more facts before we move that kind of money. So that's the plan on those.
And Todd, I think it's important when you're talking about these, since these are COVID unusual expenses, we're trying to make sure that they're not built into the operating budget, right? So we're able to, I think that's important for, it's not that anyone has any hesitancy in paying for this. It's just that we pay for it in the right place.
That's right.
Is that fair to say?
Yeah, great ad, Amy. Thanks. And as everybody knows, for decades we've funded the Board of Ed's budget. But on these two special COVID-related items, we haven't crossed these bridges before, and we're going to do it together. And we'll sort out what is needed and when it's needed. So that's the plan. Okay. Let's go to then. Linda, do you want to walk through each one, and do we need a motion on the line items?
Sure. And Judy, we talked about this, so I'm going. You should have these numbers. I mean, you could read from the screen or not. So I'm going to hide one.
Yeah.
So
it's the one.
Two.
Yeah.
It's review one, and therefore you will read the lines, individual lines, and then the motion will be on the yellow number.
On each of the yellow. Yeah.
On each of the yellows, and then these numbers below are each read individually, and each one has a motion. And then the sewer fund, you'll read the two numbers, and then we vote on the total. And then on the small funds is you would read all of these numbers, and then you would just make a motion on the total.
Linda, can I ask one other question just with debt service?
Sure.
The debt service of the 17.6 million, that's assuming how much is added in terms of bonded debt? Do you recall? Because we have a big capital number coming forward. A lot of that's not going to have to be funded right away. But I just think we keep trying to pay attention to how much debt service we have as a percentage of the operating budget. And I just think.
So this debt service number that you have here is not part of the bonded projects that are occurring. This is for debt that's already been issued. Because any new debt, the way that the schedules are scheduled, you're not going to see that debt service until FY23. So regardless of what you do with the capital, this number doesn't change. We anticipate it to go down because we're working on a refunding now. Mm-hmm. So there's a chance that once the refunding happens, the actual expense may be less than 17.6, but it's not going to be higher than this number.
Okay, thank you.
So Linda, within the 17.6 million, what's the current expectation of principal reduction?
On the debt, this is just the debt service though. Annually, it's about, I believe we're looking at 13 and a half in principal reduction.
Yep.
Okay.
Linda, how come that number is so stubborn? It's been 17.6 off forever. And no matter what we do, it sort of doesn't seem to move very much over the next few years.
Oh,
well, right. It's a math problem. If we don't add any more in 2 years, this number would be like 12. But we're going to add more, so that's really it, Neil.
Okay.
Well, but I think if we did look at the amortization of the debt, first of all, we
did. I was going to say, Amy and I have looked at this with Bill Lindsay. Part of it is how the prior debt has been amortized. It's a function of that amortization structure. When we had some 20-year bonds, 15 years bonds, 5-year bonds, so it's a function of when those occur. And it is impacted every time we do a refunding. This number is also recalibrated, and so we hope that this number has been trending down.
But we could control that. We could accelerate that by changing the amount of principal being redeemed, right?
We could in the debt structure, yes.
Yeah, it's a stubborn number.
but Neil, I think as a ratio, we're moving in the right direction.
We're moving directionally right, but it just seems that with all the adjustments we're doing, it should be, it's still 17 million in the next couple of years.
Yeah,
but we send Neil that. It really is impressive what happens in a couple of years. But we have to not add too much to the top again, right?
Yeah, and given our current interest rate structure on the outstanding bonds, we ought not to be thinking about prepaying any of them, because if we have to then go back out into the market, as Bob said earlier, the rates are tending upward.
That's right.
So,
they're still pretty low. They're still incredibly low.
They're probably higher than we're currently paying on a blended basis for our existing debt.
I don't think so.
Okay, so Linda, you want to read the items or does Judy read this?
No, I'm supposed to, are we doing, this is the formal read. Is there any more discussion before we start? Okay. Oh, all right. Board of Finance budget regular meeting, March 4th, 2021. Approval of the proposed 2021-2022 fiscal budget. General fund, total town budget, $38,660,189. Total Board of Education operating and health insurance transfer budget, $92,274,068. Total Board of Education expenses paid by town budget, $555,668. Tax funded capital budget, $1,705,862. Debt service budget, $17,617,237. Non-wage contingency budget, $300,000. Total library budget, $2,425,634. Transfers and outside agencies budget, $949,862. Total general fund operating expenditure budget, $154,488,519. So we need
Judy,
a motion.
I think you read that. I don't think you're reading the most current version.
It's the one you sent me like 4 o'clock. 617.
So the changes are the tax funded capital budget. That's the only line that changed.
Yes, there was one that I sent after Amy's proposal. Or you could read it what I have on the screen.
I can read it from the screen if that makes it easier. All right, I'll go back to the tax funded capital budget, $1,726,862.
And a total.
So the total then becomes $154,509,519.
Okay, I need a motion to approve. Motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Neil, okay, thank you. All in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so moved.
All right, the general fund non-tax revenue budget total, $9,067,728. Motion.
Just speak up, please. Yeah, Amy, thank you. Second.
Second.
Chris, okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Please, yeah, opposed, any? None, okay. Thanks.
Fund balance contribution total, $5,600,000. Motion.
Motion to approve, please. Tom Schulte, yep, thank you. Second. I need a second. George, thank you. Yeah, just speak up. It's hard to see everybody's hands with the screen there. Thanks. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Opposed? None. Okay.
All right. Amount to be raised by taxation, $139,841,791. Motion.
Okay. Motion, please.
I move. Amy, I move.
Yep. Good. Thank you. Amy, second. Neil?
Michaels.
I'll second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. Okay. And that was, Neil was the second on that one, Tucker. And
got it.
Judy. Yep.
Yeah. Property tax collection rate, 98.5%. Motion.
Motion, please.
So moved.
Second.
Chris, I think, seconded.
Wait, who was first?
Tom Schulte was the motion. Second, I thought was Chris. Please confirm. Yeah.
Yes, confirm.
Thank you.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None. Okay. Thank you.
All right. Sewer operating and capital funds. Sewer operating fund budget total, $1,549,871. Sewer capital fund budget, $308,725. Sewer fund revenue and expense budget, $1,884,037. Motion.
Motion to approve, Amy. Thank you. Second? Tom Schulte.
Second.
Okay. Oh, that was Tom Schulte got in there first. All in favor? Aye.
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 Opposed? None. All right, Michael, we're going to get you in the next one.
Too slow.
No, you're fine. Other funds. Dog license fund revenue and expense budget, $30,605. Parking fund revenue and expense budget, $195,000. Railroad fund revenue and expense budget, $155,021. Rental property fund revenue and expense budget, $10,900. Waveney Pool Fund revenue and expense budget, $575,600. Movie Theater Fund revenue and expense budget, $139,088. Total other funds budget, $1,106,214. Motion.
Motion. Michael, Michael, look at his hands up. Got it. Perfect.
Yeah.
Second, please.
Second.
Second, Neil. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
All right.
Okay.
This completes the approval process by the Board of Finance for the proposed 2021-2022 fiscal budget. The recommendations for appropriations as approved by the Board of Finance will now be delivered to the Selectmen for submission to the Town Council. The Selectmen will also cause to be published once a week for 2 successive weeks a notice of a meeting of the Town Council to act upon such recommendations.
Thanks, Judy. Okay, everyone. Well, a big thank you for all your hard work. This one felt like a lot of work the last 6 months, I have to say. So thanks for all your time and your effort. And I know we all have full-time jobs elsewhere, and it's very impressive how much work you guys all got done. So thank you. With that, and a thank you to the First Selectman for getting us this budget, and over to Mr. Engel and his team. And we're happy to help with anything you need on the Town Council side, of course. Anything we can do for you as you work through this. We'll look forward to it. So with that, we'll need a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Judy, that's fine. Second? Second?
Aye.
Chris Labrie. Labrie's got a second in there. Okay, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
None. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Have a good night, everyone.
Well done.
Thank you.
Aye.